There's this three-digit number that has a huge say in whether you get a car, a house, or even just a credit card. It's your FICO score. And yeah, most of us know it's important, but very few of us know how it really works. So today, we're going to crack that code.
So first off, why should you even care this much? Well, because a staggering 90% of the top lenders out there use FICO scores to make their most critical lending decisions. Think about that. This one number is basically the gatekeeper to credit for millions and millions of people.
Okay, so we get it, it's a big deal. But what is it actually measuring? Is it like a grade on your past financial choices? Maybe a reflection of how much money you make? The real answer you'll find is a lot more interesting than that.
Right. Here's the very first thing you have to wrap your head around to master your score. FICO isn't designed to be a report card that judges your past. Not at all. It's more like a crystal ball, designed to predict your future. It's all about forecasting how you're going to handle credit from this day forward.
And we're talking about a really specific prediction. The FICO algorithm is built with one main goal in mind, to calculate the statistical probability that you, yes you, will be 90 days or more late on any credit payment within the next 2 years. That's it. That is the entire game.
So how in the world does it make that prediction? Well, the exact formula is this big secret, right? But FICO is actually super open about the 5 main ingredients that go into the recipe. And understanding these is step 1 to taking control of your score.
Okay, just forget everything else for a second and look at these 2 massive pieces of the pie. You've got payment history and the amounts you owe. Together, that's 65% of your score. Seriously, if you just get these 2 things right, you've already won most of the battle.
Let's just do a quick run-through of these. Payment history, it's exactly what it sounds like, paying your bills on time. Amounts owed is all about not maxing out your credit cards. The other 3, how long you've had credit, the different types of credit you use, and how often you're applying for new stuff, they're important for sure, but they're really just a supporting cast.
All right, so you know the 5 factors now. But here's where things get really fascinating. The way those factors are actually weighed isn't the same for everybody. FICO has this hidden system that actually changes the rules of the game depending on who you are.
This is the key question, right? If you and your friend both have, say, a 25% credit utilization, does that affect your scores in the exact same way? The answer? Well, it might just surprise you.
The answer is a big, fat no. See, FICO doesn't just use one single formula for everyone. It uses a whole collection of different submodels, or what they call scorecards. The very first thing the algorithm does is put you into a specific bucket, and then it grades you against the other people who are in that same bucket.
So the algorithm sorts you by things like whether your file is clean or dirty or how long you've had credit. And here's the key. Depending on which bucket you land in, the rules actually change. For instance, if you have a young file, opening just one new credit card is a much bigger deal to the algorithm than it is for someone with a mature file. You're literally being graded on a curve against people with a credit profile that looks a lot like yours.
And this whole scorecard system helps explain why FICO sometimes follows these rules that just seem to defy common sense. Because at the end of the day, it's just a predictive algorithm. So optimizing your score means you have to learn to think like the machine.
Okay, here is a perfect example. We're all taught that having 0 credit card debt is the ideal financial goal. And for your personal finances, it is. But from the FICO algorithm's point of view, if all of your accounts are showing a 0 balance, it has no recent data on how you manage credit. It literally can't evaluate the risk. And this, weirdly enough, can actually cause your score to drop.
This little quirk is known as the all-zero penalty. When every single one of your credit cards reports a 0 balance to the credit bureaus, the model flags it as no recent revolving credit use and can ding you anywhere from 15 to 25 points. It's a penalty for being invisible, not for being irresponsible.
So how do you beat this weird penalty? Well, with a simple but super powerful strategy called AZEO, all 0 except 1. Right before your statements close for the month, you pay off every single card except for one. You let that one card report a tiny little balance, maybe $10. Then, of course, you pay that off in full before the due date so you never pay a penny in interest. And boom, you've satisfied the algorithm, you've avoided the penalty, and you've maximized your score.
Now, everything we've talked about so far, that pretty much describes how the most common FICO scores work today. But the world of credit scoring is right in the middle of this massive evolution. It's shifting from looking at a single snapshot in time to watching a full-length financial movie.
The standard you're probably used to, FICO 8, that's the snapshot. It only knows your balances right now, this month.
But the new model, FICO 10T, that's the movie. It looks back at the last 24 months of your financial data. It can tell if you're paying your balances in full each month or if you're just making minimum payments. It can tell the difference between a one-time holiday spending spree and someone who's chronically carrying high debt. I'm telling you, this is a total game changer.
And look, this isn't some far-off future stuff. This is happening right now. The mortgage industry, which has famously been using models from like the early 2000s, is now being required to make a transition. By 2026, FICO 10T is set to become a standard for mortgage lending. That means your long-term payment habits are about to become absolutely critical for buying a home.
But here's the good news. These newer models bring a lot of really consumer-friendly changes. They heavily reward people called transactors. That's folks who pay their cards in full every month. And starting with FICO 9, things like paid-off collection accounts are just ignored. Medical debt is given less weight. And even your on-time rent payments can be factored in to help build your score.
But even these newer, smarter models need data to work with. So what happens when there just isn't any? In the US alone, about 50 million people are considered credit invisible, which means they have little to no credit history to score. So how do they get access to the system?
Well, this is where the next wave of innovation is really happening. You've got products like FICO XD that are starting to build scores using alternative data, things like your history of paying utility bills and cell phone bills on time. And Ultra FICO takes it a step further, letting you link your bank account so the algorithm can see positive signs like a healthy savings balance, giving lenders a much more complete picture of who you are financially. So, we're moving away from a system that judges you on a single moment in time. Instead, it's becoming one that analyzes the long-term movie of your financial behavior. And that leaves us with one final and really important question. How is your story going to be told?